I felt was a very powerful process around creativity. Yeah, and in 2017, I decided I'm going to register for my master's, and yay, I finished. And I've submitted, and I should get my results in the next month or so. So I'm very glad to share this, even though I've not got my results back, but I think the results I needed from it, I've received 100 times over. So I'm going to share my story, and please tell me if you're able to see the presentation. I'm going to, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So when I started the masters, it was quite overwhelming, because I thought, okay, you know, what do I do? Where do I start? And I guess the answer that came back is start with yourself. And I was at the BK Center one morning when I think it was Pratibha that was reading the Murli, and she spoke about the state of being, and she spoke about the gods and the goddesses, and you know, I think you spoke about Narayana and the state of Narayan. And I was wondering at that time, what is actually my state of being? Where am I at this point? And it kind of propelled me. I mean, just thinking about the state of being and not being able to give words to where I was. So I decided that actually this is what I will explore in my creativity. It was very abstract. It was in some ways, you know, just a sort of spiritual conversation. And I thought, okay, you know, it stuck with me, so there must be some meaning to it. So when I think about my process and how I embarked on this, I mean, I started to try and investigate what does this creativity mean, or what does it mean for all of us? I mean, we are all creative beings, and as women, we're also able to, you know, women and men, we have the ability to create more of ourselves, and then we're constantly creating in the world. I mean, the world is full of things that came from a thought. And I realized that this creativity is a force that shapes my way of being in the world, because it is what happens inside of me that takes the form of an expression, and that is manifested in some way or the other, whether it is through words or whether it is through an object. In any way, I see every act that we do is an act of creativity. But it goes further than that, because I think this creativity comes from some innate intelligence. So when we think of creating or creation in its sense, it's obviously coming from a source. And I started exploring that. And you know, I read a lot about anthropology, and it was interesting this morning listening about alchemy and being an archaeologist of you know, what I sort of, my life, my being, and to actually explore that, you know. So I read a lot about anthropologists and anthropology, and what we find is, you know, from the time man existed, there was this need to sort of create, and creating tools for using in your everyday existence to survive, or whether it was tools to, you know, to collect water. But we were making things, and it made me go back and think about, you know, the time of when cave paintings happened, and people felt the need to express certain things, and they would find natural materials. So it was almost basic, very basic to human nature, and it sort of allowed me to constantly create. And I went back to childhood memories of why did I go to the river? Why did I collect the clay? What was it about it? I still remember the smell of it. So there must have been something really special that I connected with on a very soulful level. And then also, I think getting to a point where, having made the decisions that I made, I was now seeing this creative aspect of myself as you know, a natural resource, and it's something I needed to tap into that then allows me to be and become in the world. So, you know, when I create these artwork or when I create these sculptures, I mean, it's an expression of an authentic experience. Now, we can obviously go and create things that we've seen. You know, I can copy somebody's sculpture and I can make a mold of it and I can replicate that. You know, it's sort of being creative, but sometimes when you dig really deep, you are not just looking at what's existing in the world and recreating that, but you are looking inside and seeing what needs to be created and why that needs to be created. I think that was also a very important question for me, is understanding that process of why I'm creating. So, sorry. And I think the other important thing that I realized in this process was that creativity allowed me to become more present in my body, or the act of creating, the act of making. And I was reading, I read a lot of medical texts, and the one book I read by Drew Leader, he's a medical doctor, spiritual doctor in many ways now. But his book was called The Absent Body. And what I found quite interesting about The Absent Body is he talks about when we become present to this absent body. And often that happens when we are probably undergoing certain trauma, we are ill and we start to feel our bodies in ways that we haven't felt it before. Or, I mean, he makes reference to artists because often there's moments of, you know, artists speak about having certain visions or they see things, and or it could be, you know, so I think in everyday life, when we constantly engage in our routines, the body becomes very absent, and it only begs our attention when something happens. You know, we sometimes just get a gut feel, and how often have we had that gut feel and then suddenly just forgotten about it? Or, you know, so I in my research, I started looking at this as, you know, this internal universe that has a language and speaking to me in so many ways. But am I actually listening, and am I deciphering them? And I decided that the master's process I would use to actually almost incubate myself in this process of creating and start to understand what is actually happening. So in my process of creating, I would, you know, give attention to my heartbeat. So if I'm working on something and I have a sense that my heart is beating faster, but I'm not quite sure what that is, I would, you know, sort of stop in that space or continue working, but become very conscious of why my heart is beating, and only to find out maybe there's, you know, I'm having some difficulty trying to decide what material to use, or what colors am I using, or maybe these lines are just not working. But I started to listen to that. I started to listen to my body. I also started to listen to other things that happened. So if I had dreams, now I would sort of just forget about my dream. But this time I decided I'm going to actually start journaling them, understanding them, because I think the idea of that everything has a meaning or is connected in some way. My process was about keeping track of things that constantly came my way. So I would, sometimes a memory would pop in and I think, okay, of all the memories, why would this one come in? And I decided, okay, I'm collecting this. This is like valuable information that's going to contribute to my process. So I think the body, so whether it's, you know, cognitive, whether it's emotive stuff that I'm feeling, whether it was my spiritual process, whether I was sitting in meditation and I had a vision of some sort, I would capture those and I would keep them. And so what, I think for me, this critical insight that I feel emerged is that I was able, when I took the things that were happening my body, in my life around me. And I started to become present to that. I was already putting myself in a very powerful state to kind of engage in this creative process. And that I felt was not only just creating a product, but it was doing something to me as a person, as a human being. And I guess that's where the healing part comes into play, because often we find that, you know, there's a lot of things in our lives and we can't make sense of it. But when we put our attention to it in a way that is, I guess, meditative, or in a way that is very focused, it's almost like a concentrated awareness. We get such powerful insights to be able to move forward. So when I take you through my visual journey, I hope you would be able to see some of that. So just in terms of my story, I mean, I've spoken about exploring my own being, my body, my life experiences, paying attention to my physical and visceral feelings, my conscious and unconscious thoughts. I was starting to create this visual language, and meaning was quite important in my work, because if I found something and I did not give it the attention it needed, I was not going to figure out what something actually meant at this point. But if I allowed myself to just trust in that object coming into my space, and I brought it in, and I made it, I gave it a space, it opened doors. And in some cases, what it did was it took me into, you know, the time when I was a little child and climbing mango trees and experiencing snakes on the farm, and, you know, so one led to the other. And I think what this eventually led to was what you'll see in the next slide, me getting to two very important objects that kind of just dictated or opened the pathway for me to create. So, sorry. The wooden snake that you see is something that I found on a farm when I was, my dad's farm, when I was quite little, probably still in high school. And I found this piece of it was a branch that had broken off, and I took that home, and I decided, you know, there's something here. And I started to carve it, and it revealed itself in the form of the snake. And this is something I painted and I kept in the house. And, you know, my parents would say, oh, look what Shanti did, and blah, blah, blah. So the other is a statue of Shiva Nataraja that I bought in Sri Lanka some time ago. And I was so like captivated by that sculpture for some reason, because it wasn't meant to be sold in the space where it was being sold. And I thought, why is it here? Okay, I'm going to bring that home with me. And I was sitting one night in my studio, you know, contemplating states of being, contemplating this snake. And I had the Nataraja in my studio, and suddenly the candle was burning, and I saw these shadows appear on the wall. And I thought, you know, look at this beautiful figure dancing. And I was seeing Nataraja dancing. So it was a beautiful sight. And in that dance, I thought, okay, so this is where I start. I start with this as my dance. How am I going to dance with all of these thoughts or dreams and objects that I've collected? And I worked with that, and the result of you know, my first piece being created in that time, you can see I've used the snake, which I traced out, and I used it in two pieces. The first piece being Genesis that I created, and that was a dream I had about two white albino snakes kind of entangling themselves and providing a line of sight for me. And I looked through it, and I remember I was meant to see something. I cannot remember in the dream what I was meant to see, but it was almost like these snakes were guiding my line of sight. And I decided, okay, there's something in this, and if I can't figure the meaning, let me use the object. So the first piece I created, Genesis, was about bringing Nataraja, bringing the dance, bringing various aspects of all of these thoughts that were going through me into a wild, crazy dance. And I guess that's the dance of creation. And then I felt, okay, I've created Genesis. Where do I move? And I at that point, I was like, I need to get to a point. And I decided then I'm going to channel these snakes as energy, and I'm going to channel them towards a single point. And that is going to bring me to a space of almost, because I felt like I was using too many colors, I was using too many lines, and I'm thinking this too much. I'm bringing in sacred geometry, I'm bringing in patterns that came to me. And how do I make sense of all of this? Well, if we were standing near the paintings, I would take you through each part of it. It's really difficult on the screen. But if you look at the second one, it's about bringing that energy to a center point. But also once you bring energy into yourself and you draw and you converge into that single point, you can also give off a lot of energy and light. And so I was literally working with these shapes. So, you know, often in meditation, we sometimes imagine. I think when we engage in the creative practice and our bodies engage, we can physically do that. And there's a lot of power in physically engaging in some of these activities. So these are the next two pieces that started to emerge. I felt that with channeling energy to a point, I needed to become still. So the piece I call Convergence is a piece I worked where I sat with women over time, and we strung a lot of beads, and a lot of the stringing of the beads was about becoming silent. So, you know, often one says that these kind of craft types of, you know, craft work is used in healing processes. And I decided I'm going to bring those processes into my art making. So sitting and stringing thousands and thousands of beads, strands of beads, and then sticking them down. And, you know, each one took probably, you know, 10 seconds for it to get onto the canvas. And these are quite big pieces. So I probably, I don't know, spent thousands of hours just stringing these beads together. And I think the process of doing this for me was very, very deep meditation. It was guided by several mantras. It was guided by, you know, slowly removing thoughts from my mind. It was guided because I physically, this process is not easy. One has to actually strengthen your body. You have to stand in certain positions, probably do a bit of yoga to be able to maintain that. But this constant working of this and engaging with the body then started to awaken things within my body as well. I would feel like I could feel that in my hands if I'm making something and it doesn't feel right, that there's a particular energy, or if I'm making something and hey, the colors are working, these visceral sensations become much more powerful. The next pieces I worked on from here, I mean, after having gone through the quietening the mind stage, was coming to a stage where I thought, okay, at this point, I just want freedom. I want to flow. I started to drop ink on my canvas and you know, play with the beads. And as the ink rolled, I would put on some glue and just let patterns emerge. And sometimes I would, I mean, if you can look at the background of the first image, you know, I just drew some lines just to sort of guide me. And then I thought, I'm not going to stick to this. I want things to emerge. I want it to become. And I won't go into the detail of the artwork itself, but I think what was really important for me here was to learn that as much as I was trying to work outside of any structure or system or conditioned way of planning and because my previous paintings were quite structured and here I felt I didn't want structure. But I think the realization was as one works through this, you realize that there's structure in everything. And this freedom I was seeking was about finding myself free within the existing structures that either I've created for myself or I find myself in the world. And I think that, you know, working through this and getting past this, and that realization is that freedom is within ourselves and how we find ourselves in whatever spaces we do, whether it's the workspace, whether it's the home space. And sometimes we have to change those environments, but the freedom, there will always be another structure being created. And our job is to, I guess, constantly as we grow, as we develop ourselves and as we grow into ourselves, is to be able to see these patterns and see these habits forming as and when they form, and to work with them constantly. It's a constant process. A piece I created here was just, I've gone through healing sessions quite often, and I would have acupuncture done on my children, on myself. And I just found the intelligence or you know, that went beyond creating this needle, and this needle that enters the body and that is able to shift and transform and change energy and enable healing. I felt that was such a powerful process. And you know, when I saw all these needles being thrown into a disposal box, I decided, well, I'm sure you have a story to tell. And I think this is where I afforded myself that freedom, even though this material was built for a purpose. You know, it can have an afterlife. It can have a different purpose beyond what it was intended for. And so I was sort of taking that out of its structured or planned way of finding itself in the world and doing its healing work into a work of creativity. And, you know, they look like amazing sea urchins that I started creating. And then eventually this formed into the body. And for me, that was quite powerful. It just seemed like there was this energetic body now being awakened, not just in terms of using the needles, but in myself as well. And then the last piece I'm going to talk about was a piece that I find quite interesting. And I tell a story here normally because, you know, it's a piece that evolved in a way that still makes me, surprises me at times. So we had new people move in next door, and they had planted these aloe trees. And I started noticing the aloe tree. I mean, it is a tree of healing as well. And these, you know, leaves would fall, and you can see the picture on the ground, and they kind of look like these snakes traveling on the ground. And I started picking them up. I'm not sure what I was going to do with them, but it obviously captivated me. And I decided, okay, I'm taking you. I don't know what for. And I collected them over time. And at the same time, I was collecting other materials. And I think when the piece came together, it gave me a story. And you know, I'd just like to read the snippet. Just as the fallen aloe leaves begged me to pick them up, so did the dried grass, proteas, and wood chips. The material began to dictate the process of its afterlife, and I obeyed. Even though working with the material opened up creative channels to contemplate death, the impermanence of the body, time, and other meaningful concepts, there was another message. The concept of the creation had not yet formed, but the materials to actualize it showed up and captivated me. I vividly remember rushing home from work one day, excited by the insight which finally came to me. I had to actualize a stillness, a kind of stillness that one experiences in death, in the dying material, in deep meditation. I named this work Still Point. So I had also, you know, in this time been to a few funerals. I had collected some materials that I was given to throw away. I bought myself some proteas, and when it dried and it was time for me to throw it away, I could not throw it away. So I kept all of this, and suddenly all of these little things that I collected, you know, came together in sort of a beautiful creation, you know, working with my beads. And if I think back to where I started with this chaotic dance to reaching to a point of being very still, this journey for me was quite significant. and to have a visual story or a visual way that takes me from my starting point over the 2 years to where I ended up. I think it was quite special. And I guess I'm sharing this because as an artist, we often think that, we're creating this work and the work is what's important, but it's actually that process of where I was in a very chaotic mind space to becoming very still in myself, and actually just appreciating not just what's within myself, but the world in which I exist in. And whether it was a little broomstick or a dried aloe leaf, or whether it was a bead, or whether it was somebody sharing a story, or it was a dream, or it was a thought, or a feeling, or a fear, I kept elements of all of that. And I was able to weave my stories with it. And we do that in poetry, we do that in writing, we do that in visual arts. And it's really something that I feel we all have within us and we can definitely tap into. And I guess this, I decided, how do I write about this? And when I looked at my methodology, or I looked at a framework that guided or that gave me a sense of what I was doing, I saw it as, initially there's always a captivation. We are captivated by things. We are captivated by experiences. We are captivated by people. And when we are captivated, it's important that the things that captivate us, we need to give them some time. And that time for me was the contemplation time. And when I contemplate that, it then allows me to create with it. And even whether it's our work, but contemplation is an important process. And when I start to create with that, I'm able to tap into my own powers and bring that to the fore. And then something comes out of it, whether it's a piece of writing, whether it's a drawing, whether it's, I've made something, I've made a chair, and then it's about a sharing of this and a collaboration. And often one sees the creative process as being very isolated, or, you kind of artist, especially, you go into your space and you do this and, nobody interacts with you. But I think it's artists do have the privilege of spending that time alone. Our lives are often very busy and we don't do that. And, whenever I need to switch off from work, I go into my studio and I create. And that takes me back to self, and then I'm able to go back into the world and create in the world. So it was a very powerful process. And then there were certain practices that I held together in this. Meditation was critical. Part of my creating was meditating into a process of creation, or I meditated while I was creating. Breathwork was so critical. The way I was breathing. I also engaged with many breathwork practitioners over this time as well, because sometimes through breathing I was able to understand where I needed to go next, or the colors I needed to choose, because it would give me clues. Chants and chanting and having sound, that was very critical to my making as well, because it changed the vibration of, I would get into my studio and I would be stuck. And then I would think, okay, what do I do next? And I would play my singing bowl, or I would use the drum, and I would think, okay, all I need to do is play with vibration at this point, which leads to, kind of like conscious play. You're constantly playing. And journaling and sketching was also important. Sometimes a strange thing comes to you and you kind of just write it down or you sketch it. But it's an impression that's left there that maybe you may go back to. And often I go and I flip through my journals or my book that I sketch on, and the idea comes through, because I used a lot of pieces that I had drawn like probably 3-4 years ago, because it's almost like, past, present, future. Whenever you write things, they sort of merge when you engage in the creative process. Prayer and blessings was also very important for me. And I think throughout my process, I had to show a lot of gratitude. I engaged in a lot of prayer. I showed blessings to the material. So there was no hierarchy as to what was more important than the other. It was completely becoming with everything that you were making with. And I also found assembling altars and engaging in rituals around an altar. These sort of altered spaces, you sometimes find yourself in a chaos, but you could just light a candle and immediately that becomes your altar. I did a lot of that because it wasn't an easy journey. I think, when you embark on an academic process, there's a lot of expectations, but through these practices, it was really, it allowed me to flow. And if I didn't engage in spiritual practice, I don't think the making would flow. I would be too conscious of what I'm creating in relation to everything else, but not really what is coming from my, sort of authentic self and what I'm really feeling at that moment. I guess I've touched on my process and the practices, but so. And when I reflect on these practices, I think three things became very clear for me. Throughout this creative process, I had to become present and present to my internal universe, present to my body, listening to the messages. And for me to become present, there was a need for this stillness. And the stillness, I did some work with Ila Manga, who's a breathwork practitioner. And I think she, in her book, it's called Breathe, she's got a definition of still point. And it's a moment in time when the noise of every day is filtered out and a state of deep peace, joy, and well-being is felt. And authentic energy can be accessed. So I did a lot of energy work with her. And understanding and feeling that energy was critical in my making. Otherwise, I was not going to make that which was that was coming from me, but rather that was coming purely from my mind. Maybe I had this idea and I had these patterns and I had to make them, and that's when pressure builds up. But when you work energetically on creating and just flow with that sort of energy that guides you, this beautiful feeling of stillness, which I'm hoping some of you can experience in your sort of creative expressions today. And then lastly, there was this sense of freedom. And, experiencing a state of freedom, it challenged, I was constantly challenging myself of looking at how I was conditioned to work and how I actually work in this sort of state of flow, in this way of integrating my heart, my body, my mind, getting these messages. And I guess that's where the wisdom is, when you actually tap into it and you have the courage to trust in that, intelligence. So, coming out of this process, I'm very excited about taking it to its next level. And I think reflecting on creativity and healing was another point that was, I did do some sort of therapeutic work in the studio as well with people that entered my space, because I felt very energized with what I was doing. And I find that if I had to compare where I was like 3 years ago to where I am now, there's this really powerful state of being. And I think my last point, I'm steadily becoming aware of a concentrated awareness when creating. And in the state of awareness, I'm able to reimagine, reconstruct, and release impressions and memories in a conscious and embodied way through my art making. I mean, earlier someone spoke about, the trauma of having had a bad experience and how do we work through that. I had taken a lot of memories and past experiences, even traumatic ones, and I had worked it into the material. And when you create this piece, it's almost like, okay, there you go. It's out of me. It's on something now, and I'm happy to let it go. So this creative dance, the way it's able to vitalize and nourish one when you actually engage with it in a truthful way. So, and I guess my words were, it nourishes me in a way that ways that feel empty yet full, elated yet calm, loud yet silent, masculine yet feminine, powerless yet powerful, and it's where there is that absolute stillness, even though you sit with this duality of extremes that we kind of face. Yeah, so I'm going to leave this there. This was just a few pictures of some of the events I had around the exhibition and having people engage with it. I also didn't do a normal exhibition where we just came and saw the artwork, but it was about actually engaging with each other within the space of the created artwork. And whether it was through sound, through dance, through meditation, through conversation, you know, it was a beautiful experience to collaborate with people in this sort of creative way. So thank you for that. I hope I've not gone over time. I've not checked. I think I have. Pratibha?
Yes, hi, Shanti. Okay. Great, everyone. What we're going to, Shanti, thank you. I think although we went over time, I think everyone enjoyed to hear your process and take the benefit of what it's done for you and be inspired to follow their own process as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break up into different modalities. And I just want to briefly introduce each of our facilitators for that. The one group that's going to do things on art and drawing, Shanti will facilitate that process for you. And then there will be movement, and Michelle Festus will do that. Michelle is a trainer for Tai Chi and Qigong. So she runs classes on that and offers that as a very powerful process. Then we have Hetty, all the way from Holland to be with us. And Hetty is a photographer, and I think she's been really working with the whole aspect of mindfulness and photography. So linking in my spiritual process and how I see things through and how I capture that through the lens. And then Fatima. Fatima is from Cape Town. Many of you may be knowing her, but Fatima is a playwright, a poet, director of plays, etc., and above all, a great storyteller. So Fatima is going to take us through the process of storytelling and how to emerge in a process through storytelling. And then we have singing, and that will be myself. Not that I'm a singer, but we're just going to explore the power of connecting with your voice and using your voice to center yourself. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll have half an hour to explore these different modalities, and all of you had selected beforehand. So once again, we're going to break up into our groups and just enjoy what this afternoon has to offer us. Right. Right. Okay. Angela Harvey. Poetry.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
I'm in as Leslie Ann. Leslie Ann has gone to Movement Building, and I had put myself down for poetry.
Okay, poetry, we only had one person, so would you choose another modality, please?
Okay, I will stay in the break room where you have put Leslie Ann, because I think you put both of us in there.
Movement. I think I put her in movement.
Yeah, and I was there as well. So let me just go back
Right.
in.
Okay, I'm going to
Thank
put you
you.
there. Mala. Let me just go through to Mala. Movement. Sherry. Storytelling. Okay. Now, how do I go into?
I feel terrible now, Pratibha. I think I talked too long and
Don't worry, it was all perfect. Good.
I think it's a private conversation.
It was valuable. Everything is accurate. Oh, good. So I hope you all enjoyed your little breakout sessions and experimenting with the different modalities. I'd like to just say that we had to cancel the poetry section because we only had the facilitator that was there, and then one person came, so I tried to link them to another group. But otherwise, the others, I think we had a nice sort of opportunity to experiment. I would like to leave now some time for people to just to share what was the process for you and the experience of just trying to connect with something from within you. Not, we tend to use our heads a lot, so I think this was a opportunity more to connect with heart and feeling and give expression to that. So yeah, I just like to give a bit of opportunity, so please unmute yourself and share. Thank you.
can we share our images as well? I don't think we all got
Yeah,
to share.
sure.
Okay.
If there's drawings, then people please put it up and share.
So I'd like to share. I mean, this is Shahad. Is it clear enough?
Yeah.
I mean, I just got to do this, but it's just something that just feels fluid and something I'm going to work with. I don't know. So that's what it means to me. Anyway.
Okay. Great.
Lovely.
Lovely. Anyone else want to share? Just more the experience of connecting and doing things more from a place of expressing our creativity.
Hi. Although we were talking about storytelling, it also can be very cathartic, I think, in terms of your journal writing, because you also do your stories there. It may not be from beginning to end, but like your innermost feelings put onto paper, and it's like a very cathartic feeling when you do that. And there are a lot of things that you cannot tell somebody else, but you can tell your journal.
Right. Yeah. And it's a very healing process often, because once you put things on paper, it's like you're creating a space between you and the experience. So that offers quite a healing process. Yeah, good. Anyone else?
I don't know if you can see that picture.
Wow, yes. Yeah.
So
Let me
it's a reflection of blinds, but in the actual frame of the picture is aloes. So Hetty spoke very beautifully about using the medium of photography as being objective and a lens to see parts of yourself maybe that you're not even familiar with. So, and also spoke very much about nature and how that rejuvenates our soul. It gives us grounding perspective. So it was interesting because we all did ours very quickly, but in that it was quite profound, because it was, for me, that was like a window, because nature is kind of with the soul, the grounding of your soul. And that's what photography is, I suppose. It gives you that objectiveness to explore, experience something that you might not know cognitively, but you can recognize through the picture what's maybe the message in the body to you. So thank you, Hetty.
Thank you. You said it beautifully. Wonderful. You took beautiful pics, all of you.
Thank you,
Hetty.
Anyone else would like to share?
I think I'd like. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I was just reminded of how wonderful, and I just want to get back to the picture. Just say that, I don't know if you can see that.
Yes.
But just how joyful I feel when I am taking photos. It's something that I haven't done for a long time, but I've always enjoyed doing. But just the joy it gives me of capturing beauty and capturing things that draw my attention to, and what it leaves me feeling. It's just that peace, the joy of especially nature, when I'm capturing pictures of nature.
Now, part of this is also this thing that Chrissy shared this morning, you know, kindness to ourselves. And I think part of this thing of giving ourselves permission and space to express ourselves creatively is also about showing kindness and care to the self, because it's a way of like what gives us that inner joy, you know. Beautiful. I think Valencia, you wanted to share. Go ahead.
Yeah, so before our session started, I couldn't remember what I'd selected. And I definitely don't consider myself as a creative person. I'm a software developer, so very left brain orientated. So when it comes to creativity, I always say I don't have. And with the lockdown, you know, people were sharing their cooking, their dancing, their art. And I was like, God, I'm doing nothing. I don't have any creativity. But then I just happened to be in the movement session. I'm like, okay, did I really choose this? And oh wow! And for me as a software developer, I'm always in my head. And so I actually found that so, and obviously my job is stressful, but that was so awesome. I actually feel less tense and less stress in my body, and becoming present. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And if I also had Michelle was sharing about her bad posture. I mean, as you can imagine, I sit many hours in front of my computer, so my posture, and the least I usually had was running, but my back issues. So I haven't been running, but the Tai Chi was movement. So I find the movement in the past was my thing. I just have forgotten about it. So yeah, that was awesome. I mean, exercise without too much effort, but also being present. And yeah, I enjoyed that short session. Yeah, thank you.
I think that's so insightful in a sense that we think creativity is about doing something and making something, but actually what it shows, it's about being present, you know, and then in being present, how that comes out in a sense. So the doing is almost a secondary thing, but the primary thing is about being present. Beautiful, lovely. Anyone else wants to share anything?
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
So, yeah, I wasn't supposed to be in this group. I had highlighted poetry and I am a poet, a very creative person, but I'd like to acknowledge the software person that said she's left brain, because I've had so many technical different difficulties because of me not being left brain and finding the whole thing cumbersome. But I'm here on the photography group, right? Yeah, and yeah, and I very much need the visual representation to visualize, put pictures to my poetry, to put my ideas for film. I could write a script in my sleep, but then to give the images that I need. Photography is a really useful thing. And I've found in this lockdown, because I'm doubly locked down, so I can't go out at all because I'm considered a vulnerable person. I was diagnosed with cancer exactly at the same time as the COVID pandemic was advertised. So it's been a really illuminating time to really observe. And I'm seeing many more pictures of flowers and really getting present to being able to capture beauty in a photograph. So I look forward to doing that more, and I have just such an appreciation for people that can capture an image and speak through it as a poet.
Thank you. There's been a few comments from Nadia. I love the instruction of focusing on the feeling of the body as one in the movement class. And thank you to the facilitator for bringing this awareness to my practice. Okay, great.
Could I say something about the storytelling?
Yeah, sure.
Fatima, you know, she is a great storyteller, and what she did for us was she told a story, and then she helped us understand how a good story is put together. But while she was talking, I just realized how the storyteller is as important as the story itself, because it's the storyteller that is actually putting their personality and their life and their feeling, which makes the story come alive. And that was so lovely to see that. So thanks very much to Sis Fatima.
Wonderful. Okay. If there isn't anyone else who wants to share.
I just want to share, I've realized now what I've drawn, if that's okay. It came to me. You know, the picture I shared, and I think it's about critical mass. I think it's about today and just, you know, starting off at this point and where I feel I am now. So thank you, everybody. I was trying to understand this expansion, and I think that's what I felt.
Okay,
So.
Great. Thank you. Oh, good. All right. If there isn't anyone else who would like to share, then what we'd like to do now is just do a collective meditation together. You know, we've done a lot today, getting inspired and exploring different facets of ourselves, but we'd like to just take this time and return to center and reconnect with ourselves internally. So I invite all of you to just sit comfortably and just connect inwardly. Just taking a moment and breathing deeply. And with each breath, just allow yourself sort of melt the awareness of your body by just allowing it to totally relax. And just focusing on your breath. Just feel the rhythm of air moving in and out of your body. And that your breath is in harmony with the atmosphere around you. And as you sense this harmony of the energy within and the energy outside of you, just feel yourself gently being drawn deeper and deeper within. Feel yourself gently gliding towards that sacred space within you, that space of stillness. For a few moments, just allow yourself to rest in that space of stillness within you, which is a vast, infinite space of calm, of serenity, of peace. Give yourself the gift of just allowing yourself to be the peace that you are, to be that sacred being that you are. And know that this part of you is eternal. Like the eye of the storm, which is still, this part of you, your sacred self, the soul, is eternal. All change and all movement happens on the surface. But the deeper I allow myself to go inwards, the more I return to this place of stillness. I am light. I am eternal. I am peace. And when I return to this space in me, I reconnect with my uniqueness. That I am a unique, beautiful, powerful being who holds the capacity and the potential for infinite possibilities to create beauty, to generate harmony, but also that in my being lies an infinite treasure store and resource of wisdom. And so I acknowledge that within me. And I acknowledge it by expressing my gratefulness for who and what I am. And not only do I express and acknowledge it, but in this moment I celebrate it. That who I am and what I am is a gift. It's a sacred gift to this world. And I allow myself to feel the fullness of joy of this precious qualities and energy and vibrations and power that I have been gifted with from that highest source, that I have been made a trustee of by that highest source. And I allow my light to shine with confidence, with peace, with joy. And in this space, I also feel that I'm not alone. Like the beads of a rosary that are threaded together, each one of the sisters that has been part of this amazing day today is like that precious bead. Each one unique, each one a gift. And so I acknowledge each one in this collective space that we've come together in. And I celebrate from my heart the gift that each one is. And knowing that as we connect with our uniqueness, and when we celebrate the uniqueness of each other, that's what brings harmony. Because it's the resonance of our collective energy that brings transformation, that creates beauty, and that is love. So just hold this image of being this beautiful rosary of light. And that we are all gathered together powerfully, uniquely, and that our light as we reconnect with who we are and with each other in this very pure way, that we together can send this vibration to all our sisters, present or not present, but that to each soul we share a vibration of divine light, divine love, and divine peace. So just hold this energy within, just absorb this feeling, and just rest in this awareness. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And that brings us to the close of our retreat. And I would like to just invite you all to just take a moment and just to share, maybe in a word or two, what today meant for you. So it would be nice to just hear your voice, especially those who haven't shared at all during today, but just to share in a word or two what the day meant for you. Thank you. So please unmute yourself and in a word or two.
I'll go. This was, thank you. It was a very new experience. I couldn't at first make up my mind if I really wanted to come. I couldn't imagine what it would be like. And it was wonderful. It was amazing to think that there were women from different parts of the world here. And then you learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and I appreciate that. I appreciated just being in this room and thinking through some of the things that the experiences I've had in my journey. So thank you for the quietness of it and for helping us to come back to ourselves. Thank you very much.
think Sylvia has raised a hand. Sylvia, you want to share?
Yes, I think we've been a little bit quiet this side because we were six women together here, but we follow all your talks and we had our own discussions, being that we were six on this side, but we had immense insight in the morning and now in the afternoon. And I thank you very, very much. And some of us, even myself, I went to tears a few times when we share a few things between us. And it was very, very special. And we will make our best to reconnect with ourselves. Thank you for your teaching. It was really amazing. Thank you so, so much.
Can I ask you where you're from, Sylvia, or your team?
Well, we were two ladies from Argentina, two ladies from Mexico, one lady from Chile, and one South African, but more Argentinian because she's my daughter. She was born here, but she's South African. So we were like a Latin American group.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, fantastic. It's so nice to feel the world is one. We're no longer separated by boundaries. Great.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I think now we can be all connected all around the world. So yeah, it's not to be happy about all we're going through, but something good came out of that. So thank you so, so much.
Okay, great. I see Rihanna's raised a hand. Rihanna, would you like to share? Yeah.
Pratibha, it's really just words of gratitude to everyone who's had a role in putting today together. As always, it's crafted with beautiful love and lots of consciousness. And I feel very blessed that I chose right at the last minute. The email must have come and I must have not even seen it. But I think it chose me because the intention I'd set this morning was guidance for healing beyond myself. And it's felt like a deeply healing, deeply connecting space. And I just know how much of effort went into putting it together, but held with so much of love as always. And may everyone who's had anything to do with today be blessed for the effort.
Thank you, Rihanna. Divya's got her hand raised.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I just want to say thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to, benefit from such a program. It's been my first experience. I thoroughly enjoyed the presentations and it's given me more insight into myself, I think each one of us has a creative side to ourselves, and we express it in various forms. So it's given me more insight into myself and my creative abilities and expressions as well. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Aldous has raised a hand. Would you like to share? Yeah.
Yes, appreciate a lot the efforts of the team, as I'm aware how much time is involved with creating such a thing, but then the joy that comes with it was felt as well. The takeaway for here is the connection with the inner feminine side that came up during this morning, but also during this afternoon session. So appreciate that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge the love and kindness and the gentleness that was present in the group today, which really allowed us to be present. And I think it also just confirmed for me is that in a group like this, when it's held in such loving kindness, is that we do become one in the collective wisdom of sharing and tapping into each other's hearts. So I just want to thank you for this time and place in love in each and every one of you. Thank you.
Hi, you want to share? I don't see your name here, but anyway. Hi, did you want to share? Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it's Jackie from the UK. Just 3 words just come to mind: connectivity, creativity, and love. Beautiful day. So thank you all for everyone who participated.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else?
I would also like to say something.
Sure.
This was my first time doing this kind of sessions. It was more than 15 years since I did not do a full day relaxing meditation and guidance session. I've struggled a lot with keeping still. I really did take the day for this, so I appreciate the initiative, and I also want to say thank you for everyone who was here present, talking, guiding, and sharing. It's really a gift. It's really about connecting with no expectations, and it really did touch me. So although I can see that there are people in this forum with a lot more experience on Brahma Kumaris, but also on meditation, for me it was initiation. So thank you for everything.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey. Is there anyone else? Raksha, would you like to share something? Because Raksha and I sort of worked on putting this day together. So Raksha, if you'd like to share anything? Unmute yourself.
Yes, I would just like to thank everyone for our collective sharing, and it's really heightened that feeling of love and harmony and self-worth and respect for all of humanity. And so that was what I especially take from this, the power of the collective in raising my energy and then offering it to the whole world. So thank you to each one of you for adding to my vibration so that we can then all take this out to the whole world. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So anyway, just as I want to just say a special thank you to all our facilitators, Shanti, Michelle, Hetty, Fatima, and it was just lovely that everyone just came forward very wholeheartedly to share not just your time, but also to share your journey and see how that can serve others. So thank you very much for coming forward and sharing as well. So I'm going to just end off now with a beautiful song. In traditional BK way, we would usually give you a sweet. So just imagine a lovely sweet popping into your mouth right now. And what we will do is, all of you that have registered, we will send you a little affirmation card, which we call a blessing. Since all of you have registered, so we got your email addresses. So by Monday or so, you should get a special little message as your blessing affirmation for yourself to enjoy and appreciate. Okay, so thank you. And we'll just end off with one lovely song just to end off today. Great.
Come, take a ride with me to paradise. Heaven's in your heart beating inside. You're alive, the great divine, older than time. You are loved, yes, you are loved, and the stars in our sky, billion-year-old lights light up the sky, and you can feel the universe through your heart, the divine design of you. The time has come for you to honor the miracle of you. And you are so beautiful, the way your body moves and holds it all. Your heart lights up hearts, and your love illuminates our world. Your soul is old, your soul is old, and the stars in our sky, billion-year-old lights light up the sky, and you can feel the universe through your heart, the divine design of you. The time has come for you to honor the miracle of you. Oh, the road's been long, and the heart is strong. Let your love lift you up, let your heart rocket you to honor the miracle of you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Stay well, keep well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, sister. Thank you all, everyone.
Om Shanti. Thank you.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.